Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to make a reaction video to something I saw the other day. It's a video from a woman named Elizabeth. Her channel is called Liz in the Middle, and she made a video called I'm 54 and I'm not okay. And it really hit home for me. I remember just a year ago feeling exactly how she was feeling. It was a really tearful video, and I could have made it myself just a few months ago. She talked about how tired she was, overwhelmed, how she felt like a shell of her former self. She talked about just being in constant pain and not feeling well and just kind of not having, like, just feeling hopeless and sad for no reason. She was so raw and honest with her experience about menopause. It really made me think that I have to do a video because I know that so many other women in our age group are feeling these same things and nobody is talking about it. I'm going to link to Elizabeth's video right up here. So please go and check her out and you'll see what I'm talking about. Some of you may remember or may have gone back and watched some of my early videos, and you may have seen a video I made early last year, way before I got serious about YouTube and before I monetized my channel. The thumbnail says tired of the rat race, and it's just a picture of my face looking so beat down. And I remember feeling so down, so exhausted. In that video, I talked about how exhausted I was, how I was tired of constantly having to try to strive and have to take care of everything on my own. I talked about being responsible for everybody and everything. And that's kind of what Elizabeth conveyed in her video as well. Just like Elizabeth, I'm also a single mom, and she talked about her daughter. And while having grown children as a single mom doesn't necessarily mean you're off the hook, especially as a single mom, because you still feel responsible for them. And a lot of times they still lean on you for a lot of support. So I want to talk a little bit about this menopause thing, because I think there's a period of time, everybody talks about perimenopause and when it all starts. And then there's a period of time after it's all over when things kind of even out. But this full menopause, this period in the 50s where you're fully in menopause, but the estrogen production has pretty much completely stopped, and maybe just you might have a little bit here and there, but I feel like there's a transition period and there's a period of time when things get really rough for a lot of women. And because it also coincides with the time of our lives when our children are growing up, trying to launch into their own lives. We may have aging parents that we're taking care of. We may be thinking about how we're going to wind down our careers. We may be burned out at work around this age and counting the days to retirement. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about it. There's a lot of physical changes, and there's a lot of emotional ups and downs, and brain fog, fatigue, and just feeling exhausted and tired and achy and sometimes even hopeless. And it's not unusual, but it's very, very difficult. This is a hard time for so many of us, and nobody's talking about it. Elizabeth talked about how she was feeling in a fog and how she feels like a completely different person. And I totally get that. I feel like that a lot of the time. A Facebook memory popped up a couple of days ago, and it was myself and my two best friends were 6 years ago. We were on a trip to Key West, and this was pre-COVID. And I just looked at that picture. Sometimes, things are so much better now since I've made these big changes in my life. I've walked away from my successful corporate career and started started ramping up my real estate business and created this YouTube channel and put myself out there and trying to be more open and authentic in my life. And I'm feeling so much better, but sometimes things come up from the past, like this picture on Facebook. And it made me a little sad because it was a picture of a different person. I'm a different person now. and things are different, not just because of menopause, but also because of COVID. I think a lot of us are still processing how much things have changed in the last 5 years. What also struck a chord with me was Elizabeth expressing her feelings of loneliness. And I think as a single mom, that's a very pronounced feeling when your children grow up. She's a single mom as well, like I said, and her daughter still needs her support. And I have the same situation. I have 3 grown sons, and they still rely on me for some support, for advice. She also talked about how she's worried about ending up alone. And I'm not really worried about that because I'm single by choice. But sometimes I feel still like I'm carrying the weight of I'm carrying the weight of the world. I'm carrying everybody's burdens and everybody's responsibilities on my own shoulders, I feel like sometimes. And that's mostly self-imposed. I'm not saying people are dumping on me, but I think a lot of us feel that. And it just is such a burdensome, heavy feeling. Menopause can definitely mess with your moods, and it's an emotional roller coaster. And sometimes you're feeling fine and happy, and then the next thing you know, you're ready to burst into tears. And Elizabeth also mentioned the rage, which right now I'm feeling pretty calm and mellow, but I've definitely been there. She talked about feeling like wanting to throat punch somebody. And I think I mentioned in a previous video how I got so mad at a man in Walmart one day because he was basically mansplaining me how to operate a soda machine. I'm going to link to my video that I mentioned from last year right up here as well if you want to go back and look at it and just see. You can see, just like with Elizabeth's video, it struck me how you could see the fatigue and the sadness all over her face. And it reminded me of the video that I made. While I didn't really talk about menopause in my video, I've been talking to my friends about this for a couple of years. It really has kicked my ass. I do almost feel like now I'll be 56 later this year, and I feel like maybe I'm starting to come to the other side of it now. But there's definitely a time between age 50, which I feel like at 50, I feel like I was riding high. I feel like life was great when I turned 50 in late 2019. And then a lot has happened, and I don't know how much of it is menopause and my hormones and how much of it is COVID and the way the world has changed, but I definitely feel like a different person. And I know that a lot of you have felt this over the last several years. And if you're older, if you're in your 60s and you went through menopause long ago, let me know in the comments if it was this way for you, or was it just the fact that my menopausal transition kind of occurred during COVID. So, because I'm not really sure how much of it was me and how much of it was just the world. But one of the biggest challenges for all of us in midlife is that we are in the process of, we're starting to think more of ourselves and our own desires and needs and what we want for the future and the rest of our lives. And then we're having to make that transition from being the rock for everybody else into being our own person. A lot of us have felt like we've been carrying the weight for everybody else for our whole lives. And as Elizabeth said in her video, for a lot of us, menopause just sucks. For me, I'll tell you, for me, it's come with not only the emotional roller coaster, which comes with the hormones kind of not being stable. I've had a lot of physical kind of just breakdowns. My body has changed. My muscle tone is just kind of dwindling. I look in the mirror and I see I see an old lady. And I've had aches and pains. I've had some thyroid issues that are like subclinical. I've had some physical ailments and some physical symptoms that nobody has an answer for. Sometimes I just have really bad days where I don't feel good and I don't feel like getting out of bed. Those are really few and far between now, but a couple of years ago I was really going through some physical things and nobody had an answer for me. I think part of that was the hormonal shifts that happened in my body, and I don't think that our Western model of medicine does a really adequate job of addressing this for midlife women. I don't think that that menopause is taken seriously, other than hormone replacement therapy, which to me, I'm not going to get too far into that, but I'm conservative when it comes to taking medications and doing unnatural things to my body. I feel like hormone replacement therapy comes with its own set of risks, and I am not willing to take those risks. So for me, that has not been an option. I think that there are probably nutritional things and supplements that we could take that would make us feel better during this time of our life and nobody's looking into that. That's why I'm starting to investigate functional medicine, and I'll report on that later if I ever once I get into it and figure out what's going to work for me. Maybe I'll make videos about that, but I digress. Last year, after I made that video, I had just started realizing how much had changed, how much I had changed, and how much I didn't feel like myself anymore, and also how unhappy I was with my career path. So later, towards the end of last year, I quit my job. I quit my job in December, but I started planning it around the time I started this YouTube channel in October. And I've started working on becoming my own boss. I'm teaching part-time. That's something I've always wanted to explore. And I'm planning on some epic adventures in my minivan later this year, hopefully a trip across country to the Pacific Northwest. This has all been kind of scary, but it's really exhilarating, actually starting to listen to my own voice. I really think that it's the best decision I've ever made for myself to walk away from my career and start this channel and make other plans and step outside of my comfort zone and do things that other people didn't expect me to do. Anyway, I'm sharing all this because I want you to know that you're not alone. And Elizabeth, I'm talking to you as well. We're all in this together for what it's worth across the YouTubes, the interwebs, and all that. I'm trying to build a community here of like-minded people, and mostly women. Most of my viewers are women, and they're mostly in my age group. But I want us to support each other. So, I have this channel. There are other midlife women. I'll link to some of them below in the description. I feel like we're all kind of on the same trajectory. I do have a Substack as well. I'll link that in the description. That's always below. I just hope that we can share our stories and find support in each other. And Elizabeth, if you're watching this, thank you so much for your honesty and courage. You've inspired me, and I'm sure you've inspired many others as well. And I'm sure there are other women out there who saw your video and it gave them some peace to know that they're not alone. Thanks for watching, everybody. Just remember that you're amazing just as you are. I'll see you in the next video.